I think we are good. It is 10 o'clock on the nose and want to respect your time. Thank you all for joining our Commissioner School Counselor Advisory Council. It is hard to believe, but this is our very last meeting. So, all of our school counselors that have served on the Advisory Council have done so for the past 3 years. So, you have really hung in there, give us some great perspective from out in the field. We appreciate you all and excited that we get to wrap up your council experience today with such powerful speakers, and we hope to get some great information and back from all of our school counselors. We're going to switch things up just a little bit this morning. Dr. Fletcher, are you with us?
I am on. Can you hear me?
We can, Dr. Fletcher. We want to go on and turn it over to our commissioner. Here's some remarks from him. I know he's got a busy schedule today, so we want to make sure to give you the floor, Dr. Fletcher.
Well, very kind of you. Thank you so much, Dr. Shearsley. So good to see you. So good to see everyone on the call. I apologize. I just came out of the the House Primary and Secondary Education Committee meeting, and I was lucky that one of our esteemed colleagues here in the Senate allowed me to use his office for this meeting. So I'm on my phone. So if there's some issues there, maybe through my phone connection and those matters. So I apologize for that. I do want to talk to you, just give you a kind of a heads up on a couple of things since I am here at the in the Senate office, a couple of things that this group would be very interested in so far. Yesterday in the I think it was the House Budget Review Subcommittee on Primary and Secondary Education, they heard the bill that deals with incentivizing the national certification for social workers and school psychologists. That's a bill that is being sponsored by Representative Grossell. So it would look at basically giving the our school psychologists that financial bump that would be similar to the National Board Certification uh, across the state. So again, that's something I think that this group would be very interested in. So again, looking up that bill, I can get you the bill number a little bit later. I don't think it was listed on the agenda, but again, that was something that we have Representative Grossell. She has brought forth, and that's something that she is promoting as we move forward. Some other bills that you may be interested in, I would urge this group also to look at House Bill 307. Um, there are some concerns with that bill. For example, it would create a lot of administrative work for districts to essentially provide the way the bill is asked, that eventually the information would get to the Council on Post-Secondary Education, but there'd be some administrative task of having districts to put together um, lists of students of which schools they'd be available to go to post-secondary. They'd also look at putting a questions and answer session of what type of communication means it would be. But essentially, at one point, districts would have to supply to us student names, then we'd have to supply those on to the Council of Post-Secondary Education. But one of the things I think is very concerning in that is also the KY. They would require for Kentucky schools, the Department of Education, to supply KY Stats Social Security numbers of students. So there are some issues there with 307. I would highly recommend that, and then some of it impacts counselors directly, so it'd be good to look at those two bills as we move forward. Another bill I will talk a little bit about, again, sitting in the Capitol Annex, is 257. Very excited about House Bill 257. It has had, I think, 3 readings. Hoping that it'll be on the floor this week. It's been kind of a hectic week, so I have to try and track and see where that is right now. It has made it through the subcommittee and the House Ed Committee also too, passed not only favorably but unanimously. If you look at that bill, there's a lot of good information as far as, and just to review for this group that's a part of that, you have there's still the color rating system. It was a push by the Kentucky Night We Learn Council to kind of remove those the red, orange, yellow, blue, green for each school based on their test scores, to try to limit that competitiveness and be more along the lines of how do we work collaboratively. So be more along the lines of, did you meet federal requirements, did you not? That was one of the things that's not in the bill, that was in the original bill, but it's been taken out. But some other things that are part of the bill now is we would utilize math, social studies, science, and reading and on-demand writing and editing mechanics has been removed when it comes to the calculations for CSI status, the state accountability piece. That would be removed, but we would really focus in on, and even the bill talks about how that should be a part of the language within policies at site-based or school-based councils for writing across the curriculum. Again, 257, if you look at that, it has better description of that. You can see more of it. Some other parts that we had put in was talking about local accountability. In the original proposal, every district shall have a local accountability model. Well, that's gone through some iterations. By the time that House Bill 257, it became more of an incentive. If districts would adopt a local accountability model, and if we got to 60%, then a trigger would kick in, and then all districts. It's very similar to the dropout age that we did a few years ago, whereas if a district went from 16 to 18 as a dropout rate age, and when it got over 50%, then all districts would have to adopt it. Also, a part of that was in House Bill 257 in its original version was a $10,000 plus $3 per student incentive for each district that adopted a local accountability. That's been actually reduced to just a $15,000 flat rate for all districts that adopt a local accountability as an offset. And that is a one-time cost offset, if you will. In the original bill, 257, that $10,000 plus $3 per student was an annual cost that'd be given to districts. Another thing that you can see a lot of, I'll say some issues with that people are arguing about, talking about a lot, is the addition of chronic absenteeism into accountability. It would actually replace the survey for school safety and climate. So it would basically take that 4% and switch it around and put chronic absenteeism in its place. Other parts that have been taken out of the bill due to cost, we had proposed an adaptive reading and mathematics summative test that would give not only grade level proficiency, but also give grade level equivalency. In other words, is a student on fourth, if they're in the fourth grade, are they reading on grade level, one grade level above, or two grade levels above, or one grade level below, whichever. But due to cost, that adaptive test has been removed. So we would use a test. It would be similar to the same assessments that we're using now without any changes. So it would not be an adaptive test. Another part that's been removed, I expect a lot of conversations as we move forward, is that interim assessments. For many of you, you can think about your MAP, STAR, iReady, whereas you're giving 3 windows of assessments each year from your local assessments. And then you also tack on a 4th assessment for state accountability. So there's 4 windows essentially each year for districts. We were offering an opt-in system that would align with the adaptive test at the end that districts could opt into. We would bid it out. Curriculum Associates, NWEA, or even Renaissance could bid on it. Anybody could bid on it, but we would try to align it so that you'd have a state assessment that would be formative, that would give you data towards the end of the year state tests in math and reading. Very similar to what you do now, but it'd be all aligned with the state assessment. And but those were opt-in. So if a district was really tied to whatever program they were using, they would not have to opt into our interim assessments. But if you think about that, the 2 biggest complaints that we have is we're not getting state data back as quickly as we would like. So if you were taking a state test in the fall and you got that data overnight, now again, that would not be a part of accountability. It would just be formative data that would point you towards the summative assessment. So you would be getting back data more quickly. The other issue that we have a lot of times that people talk about is we test too much. When I say we, districts and KDE, when you look at the 3 windows, if you were to opt into this state assessment, you would go from 4 windows, the 3 that are local and the state assessment, and that state assessment would replace that local summative assessment that districts are already doing. So I expect that to be a discussion in the Senate side as we move forward, but there's a lot of things in that bill that I'm very thankful for. Having local accountability in there, actually removing on demand, lessening the amount of time testing that we're doing, I think those are positive parts of the bill. But again, if you have interest, the House Bill 257 is where we are. And there has been a committee sub, and the committee sub primarily deals with that $15,000 cap. So Dr. Cersei, I'll stop there. And again, I apologize for jumping in late. I do have a meeting here shortly, but I can stay on for a few minutes if anybody has any questions.
Thank you, Dr. Fletcher. We appreciate you walking through some of those bills. It's always different hearing the explanation versus just reading about the bill on paper. So we appreciate you being here and jumping through different meetings. Dr. Tucker, I also want to turn it over to you if you have any updates you'd like to bring to the group.
Well, you know, I have the pleasure of bringing some greetings. Commissioner Fletcher was able to give those legislative updates, and he's at the Capitol. I'm generally at some of those meetings, but I decided to stick around here, back here at the office. If you would, if you want to continue with your normal agenda, then bring me on, because you know I love on the agenda where we have an opportunity to engage in our self-care and really reflect on our mental health state. So I enjoy that. So if you want to go ahead with that, you know, I can give some quick greetings on behalf of the commissioner and the KBE and the staff here at KDE in a few minutes, if you like, or if you want me to go ahead and do that now, whatever works for you.
That
I have a
works.
few more minutes.
Okay, that works perfectly fine. Does anyone have any questions for Dr. Fletcher or comments before he has to go? Okay. Well, Dr. Fletcher, we appreciate you being here and hope that your day goes well. For our school counselors, I wanted to, before we
If I
jump.
may, Dr. Cersei, I apologize for interrupting there, but I want to also say thank you to everyone for your service. We appreciate your being a part of this group for 3 years now, I believe. And also, too, I'm going to stay on for a few more minutes, but Dr. Tucker will take any notes and relay those back to me, as will Dr. Cersei. We do appreciate your input on all things as we move forward, and we listen. So again, thank you so much for your service. We appreciate the time that you've dedicated to this. And again, there's so many things that we look forward to, and that's interacting with the people that give us that input. Again, of course, I was a superintendent, I was a principal, I was a teacher, but I think the longer we stay out of the classroom, we have to depend on our counselors, our teachers, our students, our advisory counselors to say, okay, let's make sure that we understand the people that are have boots on the ground and make sure that we still are connected with everyone. So again, thank you for your service. I sincerely appreciate it. And I will be on for a few more minutes as we go through. And then if you have any questions that pop up, Dr. Cersei, you're more welcome to direct those my way. Okay?
All right. Thank you, Dr. Fletcher.
Thank you.
We are just coming off of National School Counseling Week. And so I just want to thank all of our school counselors that are on today. I hope you had a wonderful week. I hope you were celebrated and that you had lots of opportunity to really advocate for our roles within the schools. Every student deserves a school counselor, and that advocating for your role and connecting it to student success is so important. I hope you had lots of opportunities to do that last week. Just as basic housekeeping, please keep your camera on if you are able to do so, just so that we can connect in this virtual space. We know that it's not always easy to do that virtually. With our cameras on, it makes it just a little bit easier, especially for our presenters as they are talking to the group. It's frequent that we watch the faces of the people that we're presenting to give us feedback, to know if we're really hitting where we need to hit and we're giving the information that you need to have. So if you can keep your camera on, that would be great. Do make sure your microphone is muted, just in case someone walks into your office or the space that you are in and they have conversations that we should not be privy to. So we want to make sure that our microphones are muted. Today's session is being recorded, so just keep that in mind, just as some situational awareness for you. We want you to stay engaged. The whole purpose of our advisory committee is for us to get information back from you. Like Dr. Fletcher said, the further you get away from the classroom, the harder it is sometimes to make connections. And so we're really depending on our school counselor advisory to bring that into the fold so that we are always keeping the main thing. So we want to hear your voice. It's valuable. You are here for a reason. I am not going to turn it over to Santina yet. Santina, I'm going to get to you here in just a moment. I really want to do give me just a second, our welcome and inclusion activity. I think this is important, and we'll go back to the other stuff. But for our welcome and inclusion activity today, we want you to drop in the chat one win, counseling win. Drop in the chat one win that you have had this year, big or small. They all count, and we want to hear it. So let's take a second. I'm going to pull up the chat and see what we have here. One counseling win you have had this school year. And my phone is ringing, if you guys can hear that. The phone does not stop. I apologize. I know y'all have had some counseling wins, and I have exceptional wait time. If you feel more comfortable and you'd like to come off mute, you can do that too. There we go. Jessica said she started a new after-school club called Brick-Based Counseling. Ooh, I'm excited to hear about this. We use Legos to do different SEL activities. The kids love it and are very engaged. I love that combining the physical, allowing them to get some of that kinetic energy out while also doing counseling. So creative. I love that. John said we've had a general increase in parent participation this year from the FAFSA. That is incredible. That is really hard to do, is to move that needle on our FAFSA completions. A lot of times schools kind of stay in the same percentage of FAFSA completions. So anytime we can move that needle, we know that we're improving chances for our students to have post-secondary success. Excellent. One win that I have had this year is becoming part of a new school. Carl, that is awesome. Being integrated into a new school family is exciting and can be a little nerve-wracking too, but it sounds like they have welcomed you with open arms, which I love to hear. Paula has started a student leadership action team. Paula, I love that. I would love to learn more about that. Mindy says gotten into the classroom more this year and really targeting skills that students report needing help with. You guys, listen, when we talk about mental health professionals in our schools, school counselors are the only ones that push in to do the preventative work. You're tier one. Tier one means that's all students get what you have. And so the more that we can push into the classrooms and really get that one-on-one time with kids or face-to-face time with students, the better it's going to be. So I love the preventative component of pushing in to do classroom lessons. Positive feedback on school climate and culture survey. Yes, Chelsea. OVEX School Counselor Network attendance is rapidly growing. I love that. Terry says, when I overheard an older student helping a younger student regulate using coping strategies, I worked with them on. Excellent. I see we have some more on there, but for time's sake, I'm going to keep going. Thank you guys for sharing your counseling wins. Sometimes we can get caught up in the stress of our job, and just taking a second to be grateful and really highlighting what are some good things that are happening, because even in the midst of chaos, good things happen. So thank you for joining in with me on that. All right, now we are going to go back, Santina, and I am going to turn it over to you to do attendance.
This is great. I think I'm going to steal that, Michelle, and start my meeting I have on Friday with a win. Like, that is just a simple, cheerful way to start a meeting. That made my morning. Okay, I'm going to do attendance real quick. Courtney Benningfield from Glasgow.
Here.
Thank you. Yes, if you'll unmute and say here, because I'm looking at my other screen. Alicia Bush from Warren. Rachel Coswell from Fort Thomas Independent.
Here.
Thank you. Straussy Collins from Jefferson County. Chesley Crane from Simpson.
Here.
Thank you. Scott Danner from Union County.
I am here.
Thank you. Fatimia Fusen from Whitley. Suzanne Gibbs from Corbin. Terry Hall from Boone.
I'm here.
Thank you. John Hargis from Pulaski.
Here.
Thank you. Mary Lewis from Berea. Julie Link from Russellville Independent, Jessica Longland from Boone.
Here.
Thank you. Carla McCarty from Paintsville Independent. Carrie McGrath from Clark County. Antonio Melton from Fayette. I think I saw him. Heather Moore from Boyd County. Paula Moore from Jefferson.
I'm here. Good morning.
Thank you. Good morning. Cordia Pickrell from Jefferson. Okay. Garrick Lee Radcliffe from Kraft.
Here.
Thank you. Manesia Reynolds from Jefferson. Mindy Rose from Callaway.
I'm here.
Thank you. Carl Shainsigal from Callaway.
I'm here.
Great, thank you. Jelena Wheeler from Russell. Chloe Wilcher from Lincoln County. And Kristen Williamson from Madison. Okay, that's it, Michelle. I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Santina. And I want to give a special thank you to Santina. She does a lot of work behind the scenes for me for these meetings. Not only does she take attendance, she takes our minutes and our notes as well. I cannot talk and write at the same time. So I really appreciate her and stepping in for me the last meeting as well. So Santina, thank you for being such an awesome advisory council member and for supporting us. We appreciate it. All right, Dr. Tucker, I want to now loop back into you so you can give any updates. This would be at that time where I would normally bounce it your way.
Thank you, Dr. Searcy, and all of our outstanding school counselors. And like Santini, I really like the inclusion activity, and that's why Dr. Searcy, I said, let's go with the inclusion activity because I enjoy participating in the activity. Although I'm not a school counselor, as I've said on multiple occasions, a school counselor really helped to shape my life. And I guess one of the wins for me was being able to build closer relationships with our school counselors, in addition to advocating for the wonderful work that you do. And of course, our commissioner shares in that, and staff here at KDE share in that advocacy. So really, that's really a big win for me. And I got to attend my first ASCA conference and really enjoyed that and got a chance to hang out with a couple of you all there and really enjoyed that time. But I want to give a couple of greetings, and that's obviously on behalf of the KB, the Kentucky Board of Education, the staff here, and of course, Commissioner Fletcher, who's with us. And that's to thank you. Thank you for the heart that you all have each day, your wisdom, your leadership, and the steady support that you bring to our students. And as I always said, to staff as well. As a classroom teacher, I leaned heavily on our school counselors. Your leadership really changes the trajectory of students and staff, as I just said. And you do it in a very, very quiet way without a lot of fanfare. And you do it in really significant ways that matter. So again, we are extremely grateful for the difference that you make in the lives of all of our schools, and more importantly, in the futures of our students. So thank you, and give yourselves a round of applause. I just can't believe that we just wrapped up National School Counselors Week last week, and this is the last of the Commissioners School Counselors meeting this year. Where has this year gone? So we've had a lot of fun. It seems quick when you're having a lot of fun. So I really have had a tremendous amount of fun and collaboration with you all. One of the things that Dr. Searcy said regarding school counselors is that she talked about inclusion, and everyone wants to be part of that inclusion. Everyone wants to feel seen, heard, and valued. And those are values that we try to really emulate and model here at the Kentucky Department of Education. And so I was thinking about how do you really express that? And I came across a post that was written several years ago, and I'm sure many of you all are familiar with this. It's by Professor Lori Ann Monty. She's a former high school counselor, I believe, and now is a professor in counseling and education at Western Connecticut University. I won't read her whole poem or her whole letter, but this really resonated with me. And when I continue to talk about the importance of feeling seen, heard, and this sense of belonging and inclusion, I'll be sure to recite some of her words. And this was directly to school counselors, but I think it's apropos for anyone in a school setting. And this is what she said, and I'll be very briefly. She said to the school counselors, I see you. I see you showing up for work with that beautiful smile on your face. I see you when you must force that smile, when you feel exhausted, when you feel sick, or when you feel sad. I see you encouraging your students day in and day out, all day, every day. I hear you. I hear your enthusiasm and dedication to your work. I hear your compassion for your students and your empathy for their families. I hear your positivity and motivating phrases. And I just want to say to you, thank you for caring so much. Thank you for being so brave. Thank you for being a school counselor. You are valued beyond measure. And thank you for allowing me to share those words. Dr. Searcy.
Thank you, Dr. Tucker. I have not heard that before, so thank you for sharing that. Always appreciate Dr. Tucker. He brings greetings to us and is a huge advocate for the work that you do as school counselors and the important impact, most importantly, the impact that it has on students. All right, I want to give my one little update here is that we are currently accepting applications for non-voting student members for the Kentucky Board of Education. So if you have a student in mind that you would like to talk to about possibly submitting an application to be a part of our non-voting student member, I will drop this in the chat here in just a little bit, and you can share that with your students. It is also on the KDE's website. We've already done the welcome and inclusion activity. We are going to kick it off to our very first presenter, Ashley Gates. She's going to talk to us about chronic absenteeism and really thinking about, as she's talking, I want you to really think about the work that you do in your schools that support the chronic absenteeism work that we're doing across the state. So you bring a whole special context of work when we're thinking about the school counselor's role in chronic absenteeism. All right, Ashley, I am going to pull up your presentation and I will draw for you, but I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you very much. And I was saying this earlier, but I just want to thank the opportunity for being here with you all. School counselors, my team, we have a former school counselor, and so she always reminds us, with that lens, and just really appreciate the work and the heart that you all bring to it, because I, like Dr. Tucker, had a school counselor that really did help change the trajectory of my life, and still to this day am connected with them. And so just really appreciate all the work that you do, and wanted to start out with that. But I'm Ashley Gates. I am part of our Persistence to Graduation team here at the Department of Education, and our work is ingrained and focused on dropout prevention, chronic absenteeism, and strengthening school connectedness across systems for the Commonwealth. And so we know that you as school counselors are uniquely positioned within this, because when attendance does become an issue, we know that it's very rarely just about attendance. It's about belonging, mental health, stability, and often you all are always the first line of defense for that. And so never want to not give credit to where it's due. So thank you. Next slide, please. So just a quick overview. You will see my team and I like to use the phrasing, we match engagement energy. We are in the student engagement and support branch. And so we like to, you can kind of feel, I get really excited when I start talking and my hands move a lot. but really want to take you all on kind of a journey of what our goal is with chronic absenteeism, some of the things that we have done previously, what we're actively working on, and where our vision is moving forward, and how you all fit in with every step of that. Next slide, please. So just so that we are all on the same page, I won't read this word for word, but just wanted to remind us all that chronic absenteeism in the Kentucky Department of Education's landscape is when a student is missing 10% or more of their total instructional time. The national definition is solely based on days missed, whereas we really want to look at that concentrated loss of learning, how many minutes, what the quality of learning that our kids are missing. And so just wanted to make sure that we understand that definition and also separate chronic absenteeism from truancy, because chronic absenteeism, again, a student can be chronically absent and not truant, whereas truancy is those unexcused absences. And just, again, not to think that you all don't understand that, but wanted to make sure that I honored where we're at with that, and then give you this as we kind of walk through what that's been looking like. And so before I get into some of the things that we've done, would love to just ask a question to start out and see how do you all as school counselors currently play a role in addressing chronic absenteeism within your school? And feel free to unmic, drop it in the chat. I'm not really good at waiting till the end for questions. I like to kind of embed them as we go. So please feel free to come off of mute or drop in the chat. How do you all play a role with addressing the needs of chronic absenteeism in your school? And don't be bashful. And if you're not currently, that's okay.
I don't mind to go.
Yeah,
I'm
please.
Mindy from Callaway County, and I'm at a middle school. And just as part of like gathering MTSS data, we look at kiddos who, just run attendance reports and that kind of thing. Look at kiddos who are missing a lot. Kind of send that out school-wide and find out what teachers currently have a great relationship with those kids, who kind of wants to sponsor and connect with them. We try really hard to get relationships that are already intact to really feed into that. For the ones that maybe don't have super relationships or that we know have deeper needs as well, the other counselor and I, we will take them on and make an effort to connect with them and kind of do some counseling and see if there's an underlying issue that maybe we can assist with. We also refer to our Frisky a lot.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. I see there's a couple in the chat as well. Something that our school is really trying to improve on this year. Yes, we're all about collaboration. I love hearing from you all. By no means am I or is my team an expert in this. And so we are actively trying to shift how we even talk about this based on your all's experiences and what you're dealing with. Monthly attendance team meetings. Sorry, I skipped a couple. Parent meetings, working with Frisk, addressing needs. Oh, this is great. Tiered system based on number of absences. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Thank you so much. I am also terrible at taking notes and multitasking, so I'm grateful that this is being recorded. But I want to first thank you all, because what it looks like is you all are crushing it on tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 level work, which obviously makes sense given your roles. I think often, people make assumptions that you all are the fire put outers. And so tier 3 is usually where, first line of defense goes. And so to hear about some of these awesome tier 1 and tier 2 supports that are happening, hats off to you all. Next slide, please. Quick overview of just where our absenteeism rates have been and kind of where we're trending. So pre-pandemic, we saw about 17, 18% in those earlier years. And then we know that we had a major disruption with the pandemic. So we did not, those numbers were not quality to be able to put that within or even assimilate within our normal rates. So we saw an increase. We jumped up to 27%, 30%, but we are seeing a decrease. We are at, for this most recent school year, closing out 2024-2025, we're at a 25% chronic absenteeism rate, which is a huge decrease. I mean, you look at we hope for 1% better, right? But to get a 3% decrease with some of the awesome work that you all are doing and that we are actively pushing out. And so Attendance Works is a partner with us, and they have phenomenal resources that we like to showcase and support. And their challenge to states across the country is reducing chronic absenteeism by 50% in a 5-year span, which is like, whoa. But we're committed to that. Our commissioner has committed to that. We are committing to that and hoping to be at a 15%. We will be at a 15% by 2029 through the help and support of everything that's happening. I'm getting a little ahead of myself. Next slide, please. Sorry. And while our percentages are decreasing in a good way, we know that we still have work to do and supports to provide to some of our areas of highest need. And so the top left graph, is from like our pre-pandemic to about 2018. And so we see, some blue, and then really that post-pandemic to 2023, we saw it widespread across the Commonwealth. And so I really want to draw your attention to the post-pandemic to 2024, and not to call attention in a negative way at all, but in an awareness perspective. And so we know that we have work to do and support to provide in our highest area and region of Eastern Kentucky. And so one of our current projects that we're working on is partnering with a REL Appalachia, one of our educational learning labs, to focus on strengthening some of those attendance systems in a couple of our higher need districts to really kind of hone in on what some of the barriers and contributing factors are in some of our higher need areas, and then being able to replicate some of that support and intervention for those across the Commonwealth. Next slide, please. So I mentioned that our commissioner said, yes, we will reduce chronic absenteeism by 50%, coming down to 15% by 2029. And so this is part of our strategic plan. And so for this to be something that is embedded in what we do, is one just amazing and incredible, and it helps us be able to push along. And so we are focusing on 3 areas: expanding opportunities for vibrant learning, empowering our educators to support at-risk students, and then engaging in proactive communication with our family and communities. And so we know that this isn't going to happen through incentives or letters home. That's not enough. We know that. And so we understand that it requires really a shift in how we do things, in our systems, in our language, in our relationships, and really stepping more intentionally into that relationship based prevention, which is what you all are phenomenal at. Excuse me. So this comes to my next question. And if your school isn't currently utilizing you within attendance work, where do you see opportunities for this to move differently? And there's no wrong answer.
And again, feel free to come off mute, or you can drop it in the chat, whatever you feel more comfortable with. Ashley, kind of a add-on to that question is, how would you like to be used?
Thank you.
In attendance, like how would you like for the school to utilize you in attendance work?
One of the things we're like working on it, but one of the things that we're looking at is, instead of acting in silos, like working as a team, because a lot of the mental health stuff impacts the attendance, and then the attendance impacts the learning outcomes. And before, we always had like separate teams for everything. Like we had a team that met for academics, we had a team that met for attendance, we had a team that met for mental health, and we're trying to kind of combine everything and look at the whole picture of the child. And so that's where I kind of see my role in the absentees is like working as a team to look at the whole picture. And that's something that we're changing our systems and how we meet and our teams to to kind of address the whole child picture.
That's
Jessica,
awesome.
I
Oh,
love
sorry.
that.
Yeah,
Oh,
thank
no,
you
I'm
so
sorry.
much.
I love that. When I was still at the school level, we called those student support team meetings. So it was everyone that supports the student across different agencies, right? Different domains within our schools and pulling people together. It's so easy to work in those silos, but I love that your school's being intentional to drop those. I'm sorry, Ashley, I'll kick it back to you.
No, that was great. I was going to say almost word for word the exact same thing. And that was my experience previously as student support teams. We had all of these different, attendance and treatment team. And not that those aren't important, but how can we collectively bridge all of that together? So thank you so much for sharing that, Jessica. Anybody else? No pressure. That's okay. All right. Can I get next slide, please? Sorry. Thank you. So we know that students who are chronically absent for really can be broken down into four main categories, but these aren't the only categories. So we see students facing barriers, right? Whether that be family responsibility, transportation issues and concerns, housing and food insecurity, aversion. So can you imagine being a kid that I was that kid? I'll be honest, fully transparent. I was that kid that struggled academically. So I internalized that and I didn't necessarily act out, but I was avoiding my pre-algebra math class. Not that there's anything wrong with pre-algebra, but aversions, once a student feels X, Y, Z, A, B, C, it gets harder to re-engage them when we have that kind of negative experience, right? Disengagement, being bored. My students would say, I just don't, that lesson's whack. It just doesn't make any sense. And it's like, okay, well, maybe you just haven't seen, right, the connection yet. But, vibrant learning experiences, that's something that we talk about all the time here at the Department of Ed, and just being able to provide more of those experiences. Misconceptions, so making assumptions that, attendance really doesn't matter. A lot of these, again, we see, but post-pandemic, we've also seen these three other categories that have kind of came out. And so those are things that we are actively exploring and trying to figure out more concentrated and targeted supports. So that cultural shift with parent attitudes. And then some of your older students having that autonomy, whether it's taking care of siblings or just, having that autonomy in general to make their own decisions. Pandemic messaging has become the new norm, right? I don't remember having a whole lot of virtual meetings and trainings and webinars pre-pandemic, and just to see what society has shifted and being able to meet the needs of that where we're at. And then community factors. One of the most beautiful things about the Commonwealth of Kentucky is the fact that we have such unique diversity across in different pockets. And so community factors are very contextualized in different areas, western part of the state, eastern part of the state, northern, central, southern. And so really being able to meet people where they're at and not just create these, well, this is for, this works here, so it has to work here, but being able to meet people where they're at, hear from what's happening, and then be able to make those recommendations for different interventions. And so my next question to you all is, based on some of these categories, where do you all see attendance showing up as a symptom of something deeper for students?
I'm happy to share what I'm seeing in our region. So we're the co-op that represents like North Central Kentucky, and our counselors talk a lot about students missing school for appointments and things like mental health appointments. Those are an hour long, and then parents aren't bringing them back to school, or they just take the day off when they have a mental health appointment. We know that mental health impacts attendance in a negative way. So just brainstorming in our region, how can we get those mental health supports, more of those in schools, so that they're not having to miss school for appointments, or they're not coming to school because they're feeling overwhelmed in the morning and they just can't deal that day, so they don't come to school. Like, what support could we offer at the school level for those kiddos?
Thank you. That's really great.
Kind of to add on to that, I work in a very rural school, and I'm a parent too. And I know from like my parent experience, if I have to take my kid to a doctor, it's an hour drive from our school to the doctor, and then an hour back. And then the appointment's like an hour. So she's missing half a day of school, even if that's all we do is go to the doctor and come back because of our location being so far away from everything else. That's a real barrier to our students and to our families. And so kind of like what Santina was saying, we try to get those services to come to our school, mental health and dentist. We try to get the dentist to come to our school too and provide those services so that our families aren't missing a half a day or a full day of school. Because even if they are trying to get back, it's just our location is so far out.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I really appreciate that. And that is something that we have heard a lot when we speak to our Frisks, is trying to figure out, that bridging that gap specifically. How can we converge on that? Garrick, thank you so much. I see you created a juvenile assistance group, JAG, for students and families, for those on verge of becoming a habitually truant. That is awesome. And to see all the different role groups, your attendance secretary, school counselors, DPPs, I mean, it takes a village, right? Like, we say that, but it's the truth. That is awesome. Thank you so much. And I see Christina Weeder, you have your hand raised.
Yes. So thank you for letting me interject, because a couple of those comments just made me feel compelled to mention that it sounds like you're doing a lot of great work to kind of bring the services to the school. And I want to mention that I've been working, so I'm the director of the Division of Student Success. I don't think I've introduced myself at the beginning, but the chronic absenteeism work is in our division, but also a lot of the school mental health, school safety, climate and culture work is in another branch in our division. And so in my role at KDE, I've been working with the Department of Medicaid Services to help them expand Medicaid billable services that can be provided in schools, and helping school districts set up the infrastructure to be able to bill for those services. So that could include mental health services, even if they're being provided by a school-based mental health person, but also maybe things like dental appointments if they've got space for them, or the having a nurse at your school, those things that would be Medicaid billable. There is I think it's gone out already, but there is, if it hasn't, it's going out soon. So let your superintendents know that there's going to be some grant money available through the Department of Medicaid Services to help districts build that infrastructure there to be able to bill Medicaid. So I just wanted to throw that out there since it was something coming up in conversation.
Thank you for sharing that, because that's a huge opportunity. So thank you. Can I get to the next slide, please? So this is where I get really passionate. So I'm going to try and stifle myself a little bit, because I came onto the department about a year ago. I just celebrated my 1-year anniversary. And one of the things that I struggled with was figuring out how to still stay connected to the schools, because I went from, again, being everything for kids to, okay, how do I support whole? Okay. And so school connectedness was really, the first article that I read about from the CDC and Bob Balfonz's group with Grad Partnership talk about student success systems. And at the foundation of that is connectedness. And so what is it? Plain and simple, it's a student's belief that adults and peers in their school care about them, that they hold value. And so we know that this is definitely built through those intentional relationships, meaningful engagement and participation in school communities. And while we do a lot of really great work supporting that individually, our systemic structures have to kind of catch up with that and support that as well. And we know this is a research-backed protective factor against disengagement because students who feel connected report 40% fewer mental health challenges. And so we like to talk about connection really does help buffer the impact of trauma and adversity. And that is something that our team and division has been working on for the last year, is building out what does connectedness in Kentucky look like, and really stepping into that tiered approach with regards to helping combat chronic absenteeism. Because again, when students feel connected, they want to be with us. And so that kind of leads directly into how we want to kind of shift the language from chronic absenteeism is the issue. Well, it's actually a symptom of something bigger, right? It's a symptom of disengagement. It's a symptom of disconnection. And so I have just one slide of this today, but we have built out an entire call it a framework, if you will, of trying to fit in some of these different Kentucky-based strategies as well that are already happening in your schools and districts to really build a robust support system for reaching out and bringing kids back into the classroom. Next slide, please.
Ashley, just a heads up, you have about 5 minutes.
Perfect. And so everybody likes the pyramid, our tiered approach. And so our Department of Ed has done a phenomenal job. I'm going to hype us up with our chronic absenteeism campaign. And so last year's campaign focused on attendance matters, we miss you. And so really wanted to figure out how to elevate that this year. And so when we think about that tier one, that universal prevention piece, our campaign falls into that. Next slide, please. And so if you haven't, Lord, I hope that you've seen one of our many billboards, expo centers, bus stops, buses, our commercial on our website, Facebook, social media, everything. We wanted kids to know that we miss you, but you belong here. And so our message this year is you belong, attendance matters. Next slide, please. And from that, has really shifted kind of how we're looking at attendance. And so our Kentucky campaign was You Belong, Attendance Matters. And Casey County at the very beginning of this said, I'll raise you one better, and replicated our campaign commercial that we created. And it's hyperlinked in this, it's on their Facebook page, but they replicated it using their own students, their own schools, and showing us like, this is what it looks like here in Casey County. And so from that, and through a little bit of background whispers, our communications team, Office of Educational Technology, STLP, next slide, please, started whispering, and the whispers turned into a roar. So if you haven't seen this, or if your district hasn't talked about it yet, we've launched a You Belong Kentucky Attendance Matters video and poster contest that's challenging our students, very specifically students, to create a video, a poster showing us what belonging looks like in their schools and communities, and reminding us why it's so important to be present in school, why attendance matters. And so we launched this back in December with our superintendents, and we have been actively reminding folks because registration does end this Friday, February 13th. But we're excited because we have 28 schools. I said 27 this morning, but we had another one come in right before this call. 28 districts from across the Commonwealth, western part, eastern part, central, south, all over the place, that are going to be submitting K through 12 products of what belonging looks like from their student perspective. And so it's aligned to our chronic absenteeism efforts, and winners are going to be announced through the power of STLP on the main stage at Rupp Arena on April 24th. And so we're really trying to meet students where they're at, speak students' language, because they are the tech savants, if you will. And so really just excited to see what we can see from our students' perspectives and their lens. What does their school community look like? So this is kind of where we're at and where we're moving forward. We've done a lot of, here's what we can do from the umbrella down, but now we want our students to have the opportunity to speak into this, and really kind of shifting that tier one support more into the hands of our students. Next slide, please. And so these were just some of the questions that I kind of asked that I will skip right through one more slide, please. Sorry. On our KDE chronic absenteeism webpage, I did a very quick overview of we have a much more rich and in-depth type of presentation for this, but chronic absenteeism webpage has a ton of resources through Attendance Works, our own chronic absenteeism toolkit with some of the different tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 things that we would love to put in your hands to enhance what you're already doing. And then the second link is a handout for families through Attendance Works. Really great resources. We provide that at most of our conversations and workshops with folks. One more slide, please. And this is how you can get in touch with us. So I am just one single person on a 4-woman strong team. We are the Persistence to Graduation team. And so we provide trainings and workshops on a multitude of different supports and resources to try and support the work that you're doing and also help you build capacity. So if you would ever love for us to come talk about Infinite Campus early warning tools, we're super big into our data data leading into decision making, but our establishing school connectedness and addressing chronic absenteeism are something that we're super passionate about. And if you scan the QR code, it'll take you to our Microsoft Bookings link. If you just want a 15-minute check-in, like, hey, I just need direction on here, that's great. Otherwise, you can schedule up to a 3-hour training with us, and we cater to what it is that you and your schools and districts need. So I said a lot. I feel like I threw a lot at you, but I just really wanted to, again, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to speak with you, to hear from you. And if there are questions or any feedback, I believe that's going to be towards the end, Dr. Searcy, if there isn't anything now.
That is correct. And I am also dropping in the chat today's entire presentation link so that you guys have everything that Ashley talked about and you have access to those links. So Ashley, thank you so much for presenting today. You did a wonderful job. And for all of our counselors that gave input, that's really what we're looking for, is we really want to hear your all's voices more than our own. And so we appreciate you jumping in, being engaged in those conversations, and giving Ashley some great feedback. All right, want to turn it now over. I want to introduce you all to Will Spalding. He is our multilingual learner specialist and one of our newer members of the Office of Teaching and Learning, and he has done some tremendous work in his short time at KDE here, and I'm excited to have him present to you all. Will, are you with us?
I am. Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. Dr. Searcy and Ashley, great job as well. As you were presenting about chronic absenteeism, my mind's racing too about work that we've done previously in the district that I came from. That was a huge focus for our English learner multilingual families of educating families on our attendance policies. So. And some of what you said will bleed over into my presentation as well. But thank you guys so much for giving me a few moments to speak with you all. I'm going to rip through some slides here, and I would love to have a conversation with you guys to hear about the things that you're doing in your schools too for your English learners. So next slide, please. Again, I want to start off with a thank you as well, that your impact truly matters to all students, but especially for our English learners. I acknowledge too that as school counselor, you wear many hats, and your job looks very different if you're in the elementary level to the middle and high school too. So I want to say thank you for helping our students feel seen and valued, welcomed in schools. You know, you're building connections and getting to know students and understanding their family backgrounds and the dynamics and struggles that many have, and you're able to help connect them to school resources like our Friskies, as we've mentioned, to community resources too, when we just aren't able to support families with what they truly need. And then especially for our middle and high school folks, you do very important work with your intentional scheduling for our ML students and the guidance to help put them on the pathway for graduation and post-secondary readiness, and really understanding what we need to do to help build that master schedule, to build teachers' master schedules in a lot of ways too, to set us all up for success. And then again, there's lots of noise in our society today, and so I want to take a moment too to thank you for focusing on what you can influence in our schools. That you're supporting our English learners, but also challenging all of our students, especially our English learners too, to have high standards and to be the best versions of themselves. So thank you for that too, for the tremendous work that you do. Okay, next slide. So I just want to frame our conversation a little bit today. I think we're all familiar with the term English learners, or ELs. So those are specifically our students who have been identified as eligible for English language development services, right? So those are our students that are probably now finishing up the access test. That access testing window is closing by the end of the week. And we have seen a tremendous growth in our English learners over the last several years. And last school year, we had over 54,000 EL students across 1,000 schools in 147 of our districts, and that's a record number. So we know that your classrooms, your schools are a great representation of our country and our world as Kentucky classrooms start to reflect that more and more. A new term that some of you all may be familiar with is a multilingual learner. So that's a more asset-based approach, but that's any student who's developing proficiency in multiple languages. And it's a much larger umbrella of students. So it does include our English learners, but it also represents students who didn't qualify for EL services that have multiple languages spoken in their home. It includes our students who have exited EL services. So it's a much more broader term that includes our English learners. And when you put all of those students into our Kentucky classrooms, it's over 84,000 students, which is nearly 13% from kindergarten through 12th grade. And we know that many preschoolers will be future English learners once they come to us in kindergarten next year too. All right, next slide. And these next few slides, I'm just going to talk about the tremendous growth throughout Kentucky. So as you can see with our bar graph here, we have grown substantially. This graph just goes back to the 2017-2018 school year, but I came across a recent study that showed from 2010 to 2021, Kentucky had the 4th largest percentage growth of English learners in all of the United States. So we continue to grow. And as you can see, by over 25,000 students, which was an 89% increase. And to really put that in perspective, when Kentucky enrollment during that same period only grew by a little bit less than 3,000 students, and when you consider that between 7 to 9% of our English learners exit because they've met exit criteria each year on the access test, we're just growing more and more to be a more multilingual classroom and school. And so the work that we do becomes increasingly important to what we're doing. And as you can see, this past school year, 8.3% of our total Kentucky public schools population were just English learners. All right, the next slide is going to show us kind of what that looks like across Kentucky, right? So we've got folks on the call from Callaway to Corbin, right? From Fort Thomas down to Simpson County and Warren County where I am. So this map, the dark green, shows you the number of counties and school districts that have increased enrollment in their EL population just over the last 4 years. So that's 126 counties, when 147 of our 168 total districts have our English learners. And so the circles in the lighter green shows you which districts have the largest number of English learners. And we do have a high concentration of 13 districts have an EL population that exceeds 10% of their overall school population. And you might be surprised at which schools those are. Of course, we think about Louisville and JCPS, but honestly, they're only the 3rd largest district in percentage with their EL, but of course they have the largest numbers. And then we have 5 school districts where 1 in 5 students are an English learner. And so again, this is impacting our schools, and it's great to have so many of our English learners in your schools and being able to showcase their many perspectives and the gifts that they have. Okay, our next slide will give us a little bit more information to show you that while yes, Spanish is our largest language that is spoken from our multilingual learners, and Hispanic and Latinx is our largest ethnicity demographic, we still have a wide variety of home countries and languages represented from our very diverse groups of students. So from our other languages that are the most predominant is Swahili, Arabic, Kinyarwanda, Nepali, French, and then if you have students from Southeast Asia that may be of like Burmese descent, that includes several languages from Chin, Hakachin, Zomi, and same with students from India with Gujarati, and many other languages that fall under that group too. So we have a very diverse group of multilingual learners as well throughout Kentucky. All right, so now I want to talk just very briefly before I hear from you guys about some trends in our schools. And so I've been very fortunate in my short time here at KDE, but to really connect with several districts and cooperatives to hear and listen, and then from my own experience here in Warren County as well. But we're seeing some success in the desire to grow and learn from our schools and our leaders. So I want to give a shout out for our schools that are being very intentional in elevating EL students' voices. So whether that is like your student leadership teams, like being very intentional to include your English learners, to the signage in your school, to include messaging in multiple languages, hanging of flags and banners, or having a multicultural day at your school to showcase student talents and their backgrounds. So that's so important, that school culture to, as you know, the importance of making students feel valued and welcomed, and their parents as well. We're seeing lots of teachers that have that desire. They're seeking resources and support. They're attending professional learning conferences that we have statewide, national conferences. Our local educational cooperatives several have very strong EL cadres and networks that I've been lucky enough to attend. I'm also in letters, and I've been so thankful to see so many ELD teachers in letters training, and that many of our content-specific professional learning that we're offering has specific strategies to support our English learners. And then also we have a lot of work to do, but our ELD, our English language development, and our content teachers really marrying that group together. We've still got a long way to go, but we're starting to see a lot of success in districts to where it's not just this ESL or ELD island where we're going to send our English learners with this one teacher and we're going to focus on learning English, and then it's separate from our content. And so I want to give a big shout out to our counselors as well to helping craft those schedules and working with students and our leaders as well. In making sure that we're focusing and preparing our educators. Okay, next slide. And then some of our trends, some more trends that are also barriers, right? And that is that districts are really having to make some difficult decisions and really weigh options for a variety of things. One, of course, is staffing. Districts are really having to evaluate their staffing for ELD, and in a variety of ways. It could be they're trying to recruit teachers to be ELD teachers from a variety of alternate pathways, to also just having to consider if there are staffing adjustments that need to be made within their school. That is definitely something that we hear as a concern from our ELD teachers and EL coordinators, is the large caseloads that our teachers have and the struggle to meet the needs of our students. And so we know that that's important. The same for districts that have newcomer programs and are trying to meet the needs of our newcomer students as we aren't receiving as many newcomers because of immigration policies, then those districts are having to make adjustments and figure out what's the best way to meet students' needs. And so really having to make some difficult decisions and considerations. The same with technology and apps, and there are lots of great tools that we have that are available to us now more than ever. But also, as we've mentioned, there's no replacement for a high quality teacher and educator. And so how do we evaluate those programs, those apps, the different tools to utilize them as strengths, but also to evaluate their effectiveness, to evaluate the progress that students are making. And I know that there are counselors that in some schools that have to be in charge of that too. So really it's important to think about those technologies and the resources and tools and how effective they are in truly meeting our language development needs. And then, as we've mentioned earlier in Ashley's presentation too, about barriers that are outside of school that impact our learners. So challenges in family engagement, that's always been a struggle for our multilingual learners and their families, making sure that they feel welcomed and safe, right? That they feel welcome to know that their needs are going to be met, whether that's language needs if they come to a parent event, or even understanding the expectations of what parents are expected to do in U.S. schools. And so that education component too for parents and family engagement, transportation, scheduling of time of those events, we know is always a challenge and especially difficult for many multilingual learner families. As we've mentioned, about absenteeism and students that are high risk rates. This is something that we just have to be very intentional about. And the work that you do as counselors in being that trusted adult and things that Ashley had mentioned as well, right? About making sure that students feel valued and welcomed and supported are increasingly important for our multilingual learners as well. And then lastly, that family, those economic challenges and the important work that you do in connecting them and supporting students and their families with outside resources, or the tremendous work that our FRISCs and youth service coordinators do. So those are just some of the very general trends that we're seeing. And so, yeah, on the next slide, I have some guiding questions for you. I know I went quickly through those because I would love to hear from you all. So just take a moment to read some of those questions that I would love your response. And please unmute so we can you can share some of the successes or challenges that you face. But I would love to hear about ways that you're including your EL students in your communities, or how you're meeting those at-risk students. So any of those questions, Michelle, I hope that's okay. But I would love to, I'll stop talking now so I can listen and learn and hear from the great things that you all are doing.
One of the projects that our STLP team, one of the teams last year actually won at state, was that our students recorded different welcome videos for our students. Families. So this is how we do carpool, or this is how, we do lunches at Bowen. Or, these are clubs that you can be involved in and what time of year to look for, the forms to come home to sign up for, being a part of clubs or a sports team. So the students, did a really great job. They interviewed different staff members and then they helped translate it. And so that's been really powerful. We have, all the videos on QR codes, and then they can just scan those and watch the videos as they arrive at our school. And we also have a welcome team as one of our leadership action teams that has some students that speak multiple languages. I think we have like 32 different languages this year at Bowen. So we don't have all of them covered, but on the tours, but we have, the majority that can attend and help lead tours or welcome new students. And they've really enjoyed that leadership opportunity. They get really excited.
That is absolutely amazing. And you're so intentional there, right? It's a way to empower students to harness their multilingualism, which is a superpower, right? Those students, I'm so amazed, right? They have double the vocabulary that I have. I can only speak one language and barely English. I can barely speak it, I feel like a lot of times. But to show their leadership skills that may not always have that light shine on them. But then also the parent piece of it too, right? We're making sure that we want to connect with parents and help teach our parents about our procedures as all parents need. But love that great intentionality, the welcoming piece as well of having students be intentional in your welcoming committee. That's an incredible piece too, right? Imagine being it's hard enough being a new student at a new school and then throw a language barrier on top of that, right? I'd say there might be a language barrier, but that doesn't mean that there's a communication barrier. We can communicate with all students. And so that smile and that welcoming body language and presence is so important. So thank you for sharing, Miss Moore. Who else would love to share?
Paula, just a reflection. I couldn't help but think about listening to you. What a great example of a symbiotic relationship, right? Like all students are benefiting from what your students are doing. Like everyone is benefiting from that. And Will, earlier you talked about the small things. Like there's small things we can do to help our students feel welcome, like ensuring that their voices are heard on student committees and make that intentionality around it. So I love that we can go from making videos, welcoming videos, to ensuring that our students have a seat at the table and are heard. Such a vast variety of activities that can happen in the middle there.
Absolutely. And I'll just speak briefly about myself in that I was a high school history teacher. I'm from a small town, grew up on a tobacco and dairy farm, not a lot of diversity, and then being able to teach at Warren Central High School and have just a whole class for English learners. That's when I learned that my whole life changed, right? It's to understand too the impact and how much value that the whole class got from the perspectives of our students and what they brought to the table in their stories, their perspectives. It deepened all of our learning, myself included, as a teacher, to get different perspectives, and especially teaching history, right? To bring in students' own backgrounds and the stories that they know. Or I'm teaching about the Spanish-American War, and then to have a Cuban student say, "Oh, well, in Cuba, they taught us completely different on the story of this." So it's so amazing. And so I thank you all too for understanding the true gifts of our students. To know that, again, as you mentioned, Dr. Stursey too, just it takes all of us, and even these small intentional adjustments, additions can make huge impacts. I know we have lots of high school folks on the call too, so can I ask if there's any high school folks? I know it can be a struggle if you're talking about scheduling making and creating grad plans for our EL students, but is there any challenges, any barriers or successes that you're seeing just as you're scheduling students to meet their success? I won't put
We've
anybody
had
on
a
the spot.
couple of things in Pulaski County.
Yeah.
Our two high schools have a ESL teacher that goes to work with both schools that they've been targeted with the access testing, the specific ones that have the
Yes.
are not meeting the basic English requirements, and he's been working with those students at both schools at our area technology center, so we can have both groups of students from Southwestern and Pulaski County High School working with those kids, and that has been very successful with our ESL population. He spends one period a day, an hour, working with those students, doing basic Rosetta Stone and things like that, and helping them with their specific curriculum that they're not meeting outside of English. And that teacher has been really good working with those students, and that's been really successful with us. We had in our district, we had a tornado last year at the end of the school year, and that kind of hindered our process because the ATC was directly affected by that. But he's been working with both schools this year, and we've had less ESL students than we had in the past, but it's continued to be successful for those students.
Thank you for sharing. That's so important too. And you brought up a struggle really that lots of districts face in having one or very few EL teachers that have to serve multiple students at multiple schools. And so the importance of their job, but also the importance too of our content teachers and making sure that they're supported in strategies and ways to meet the academic needs of students too. So again, thank you for sharing, John. I appreciate that. Michelle, I don't know how we are on time too, but
We have just a couple of minutes left.
yeah, well, again, thank you all very much. My next slide I have, if I don't want to stifle any conversation, so please feel free to unmute if anyone has anything else. But as Dr. Searcy has said, that's my contact information. I'm in the Office of Teaching and Learning with her as well. I'm kind of a solo act right now, but I have lots of colleagues in multiple departments within the KDE, and we have a cross-agency team. But something new that we've started this year is a KDE newsletter. So I have a link to that. So you have copies of our presentation slides. So there's a link if you would like to subscribe, because again, I know as we have few ELD teachers in certain districts, that some of that work falls on you as counselors to help support our ELD students. So we have lots of opportunities to engage. We have virtual office hours. I have some of those recordings linked as well, but those monthly office hours, we've gotten great feedback, and we're just starting. So I'm very motivated and excited for lots of great work to come throughout all of the KDE. But again, thank you so much for this opportunity and this platform to get to speak with you all today. And I would love to connect. So please, at any time, feel free to shoot me an email or connect.
Will and Ashley, I want to thank you both for presenting today. You did wonderful. You brought some really good information to our group. I hope you got some great information in return. If I get any other thoughts, comments, feedbacks, I'll make sure to float those your all's way. But I know that it's always difficult to present, add something else to your calendar. So thank you for saying yes when I called. You were incredible, so I appreciate it. All right, we've already done feedback from there. Before I give my thanks, I got an important text from Santina that I'd missed a step today. We need to actually approve the minutes from the last meeting. So Santina, I'll turn it over to you to do that, and then I'll pick it back up after you're done.
Sure. So I just dropped the meeting minutes from November 18th in the chat. So if you could look those over, and if I could get a motion to approve those, I'll need two.
give you guys just a second to review those. And then once you've reviewed them, if someone can come off mute and approve those, and then we'll need a second person.
Make a motion to approve.
Thank you, John.
I second.
Thank you, Carl. Appreciate you all.
Thank you all. I appreciate it. And Santina, thank you once again for keeping me in line. I do not know what I would do without you. And Will, we do have a question in the chat that's geared for you, but I'm gonna, well, we can cover it real quick. Mindy says, I'm curious if there is any best practice guidance for a district that has one EL teacher for middle and high school to best serve students. Also, is it a positive move to strategically schedule an EL student with a bilingual student? I find that sometimes puts a lot of pressure on the bilingual student.
It's a great question. Thank you so much for asking that. So, talking about our staff, right? So, and this happens very frequently that you have a teacher who is serving multiple schools. And so, yes, you want to, it all depends too on the level of the student and their language proficiency, right? So, all students are different, and we have different progression of language for those students. So if we're talking about a new student, but really anyone, especially at the middle and high school level, like they need some specific language development, right? So on their program service plan, that becomes like a new core for them. You know, how else, especially middle and high school, are we going to help teach students that specific instruction for listening and speaking, and especially reading and writing, right? That can be done in the general ed classroom too, but that's a lot on a teacher. So absolutely, we want to have some dedicated time for them. And then you're exactly right too about strategically placing with bilingual students. And so I think obviously that's important that a newcomer student has an outlet to speak with another student in particularly their home language early on. That's called translanguaging, which is allowing a student to harness all of their linguistic capabilities. And that was a huge light bulb moment for me as a teacher. Early on in my career, I was like, nope, English only. You can only speak English. That's our target language. But then realizing that a student is going to deepen their understanding when they have an opportunity to utilize their home language. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm going to interpret and use Google Translate or wear these headphones all day long. That's different, right? And there's a time and a place, a limited time and a place for those types of things. But to head back to your question too, it depends on the students, especially that bilingual student. Could feel like it's a burden for them. Other times it might feel like a leadership opportunity. So I think it depends too on your classroom teachers and how they are utilizing that student. If they're just partnering up that student as a shoulder partner and saying, okay, now you explain it to Will, that's going to get old really quick. But if we're using that bilingual student with the higher proficiency as an opportunity for that student to have a comprehension break, and I'm going to pause and I'm going to talk to my classmate and I'm going to talk to him in Spanish and say, okay, what the teacher said was this. Did I hear that right? I'm going to use that person as a clarifier. What a great opportunity. But again, I wish I give you a more cut and dry answer, but it does depend a lot on the dynamics of your students and how they're being utilized. Great question, Miss Rose.
Thank you, Will. All right, you guys, I have legitimately 1 minute. And so I want to take that 1 minute and thank you all for being a part of our school counselor advisory committee for the last 3 years. I know this is a 3-year commitment is a big commitment to jump into, especially with how busy your all's schedules are. Like, you don't have time for one more meeting. So thank you for being a part of our advisory for 3 years. This is our last meeting. We are opening, we do have our applications open for the next cohort of school counselor advisory members. So if you know someone that would make a great advisory member, please encourage them to submit an application that's open until April 15th. So if you can talk to your colleagues that are vocal, they're looking for ways to improve their leadership. They want to take that next step in our state to let their voice be heard. We would love to have them fill out an application. All right. Thank you guys for today, for being on, for joining in. I appreciate you, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye, everyone.